Welcome to The Machine, a technology and computing podcast produced at Waterford Institute of Technology. My name is Rob O'Connor and I'm a lecturer in the Department of Computing and Mathematics here at the Institute. And today we are going to talk about online learning, technology and learning, e-learning, and that whole space and what it means. I'm joined in the studio today by Laura Widger and Pete Windle of CTEL, which is the Centre for Technology Enhanced Learning here at WIT. Lads, how are you?
Very good, Rob.
How are you?
And Laura, you also have a very lofty title as well, in that you're the Deputy Chair of the Irish
Learning Technology Association.
Sorry, I'm glad you said it because I would have made balls of it. So there you go. And we're also very happy to welcome our first student into the studio on the podcast. We have Emma Fahey, who is a third-year student in BSc of Entertainment Systems. And you're also doing your work placement here in the college at the moment, working on websites.
Yes, I am, Rob. Yep.
So you're very welcome. And thanks
Rob.
very much to everyone
Happy
for
to be
giving up
here.
their time. Right, so e-learning. Technology enhanced learning, digital classrooms. These are phrases that I've kind of seen bandied around for 20 odd years. What does it mean? Laura, I'm going to direct that question to you because I think you have the answer.
I think we all have the answer, Rob. I guess terms change. There's a lot of terminology that's used in different contexts. As you said, there's e-learning, computer-based learning, online learning, technology enhanced learning. At the end of it, what they all mean, quite simply, is just using technology to support both teaching and learning. Technology enhanced learning kind of covers the spectrum. So it's from using technology in traditional face-to-face classes delivered in the classroom on campus to something that's delivered fully online where the students never come to campus.
The phrase e-learning, I always had a bit of a bug about that because it reminded me of e-business, or now we're hearing it increasingly e-health. I don't think necessarily know if it means anything because e-business is just business. E-learning is just learning, but it's just using different tools. Would that be...
Actually what e-learning means, from its, depending on what origins you go to, is the E stands for enhanced. So it's quite simply enhanced learning using technology. So it's used in different contexts, and I can understand how that e-learning kind of makes out like it's learning gone wild, but it's just really about enhancing the learning experience. Okay,
so enhanced learning, is this kind of like the Bionic Man? We can rebuild you, we have the technology.
I wouldn't necessarily go that way.
I'm showing my age there with my crap 1970s TV references. Right, anyway, okay, so that's what kind of we're talking about. We're talking about the space of how technology can enhance the learning experience. But the learning experience and education and all of that is actually at the heart of this. It's not technology for technology's sake.
No.
It's technology to assist in achieving some other goal, which, if you think about it, is probably what all the best technologies and any of the ones that have been successful in any field allow us to do. So, for example, an iPod. An iPod is an interesting bit of tech, but there were other things that were around about at that time, but an iPod was a nice way of actually listening to music, and it was very easy for regular people to use it. So would you say that's true?
It is very much about the learning experience and kind of questioning what the learning experience is. Sometimes, like, I definitely get a sense in the work we do here in the college that people think there's an assumption that it's all about the technology, and we're just thinking about and focusing on the technology, and it's a bit of kind of a whatever the in fad is. It's not about that at all. It's kind of looking at what's the learning experience. What is it you're trying to do with your students? What are the students trying to do in their learning? And what technologies can potentially assist, make it a little bit easier in what you're doing, maybe facilitate you to do something completely different that you can't do in a face-to-face classroom. And that's where the focus in the conversation is. So what are you trying to do? Then how can a technology enable that?
And this might be a nice point to bring Emma in, because Emma, what has your experience of, like, say, so you're in third year now, so you've had 3 years of college.
Yes.
And I assume you came from Leaving Cert?
Yes, I
that?
came straight in, yeah.
So would you have had any digital learning or technology enhanced learning in school, in secondary school?
Very little. Like, we used a lot of stuff like PowerPoint and, kind of basic stuff, but nothing to the extent of what's there now. Like, we never had anything kind of like Google Classroom, that's a new thing, or Moodle or anything like that. So I wouldn't have had much as a school leaver, But definitely since I came to college, it's increased exponentially.
And what's your experience of that shift from a kind of more of a traditional classroom to something that uses a lot of technology? Has it been positive?
I'm happy to move to tech. I think it's good, but it's also, in a way, it would you want soft skills as well as the tech skills for your job as a kind of a tech person. But the argument most people would give that if you're not in a classroom, you're losing those soft skills, like meeting people and having interviews and stuff like that. But the tech is kind of providing that. So if you're in an interview now, you can use Skype to do it. So it's the same thing, but you're using the tech to get you to where you need to be in your career. So no, I think it's a good way to go. There's a lot of improvements. I've worked with a company that used VR classrooms, and I can tell you they're a very, very good idea. They're very cool.
So this is a virtual reality classroom. Yeah.
And it's very interesting because you can talk. Your voice is recorded and all on that, but it's a very interactive experience. So if you're learning biology, we'll say, the lecturer could be talking at the board and you are sitting back from them with your VR thing, your headset on, and the teacher could bring up a live rhinoceros, we'll say, for whatever, their bone structure or something like that.
Yes.
The student can go up and interact with it, like turn the thing and, see it at a different angle and the structure of it. And it's a really nice experience to have. So I think it's a good way to go.
Okay, well, we're not quite at the level, certainly here in WT, of VR classrooms yet, although I do know the company you're referring to, and they are doing some fantastic work. We might bring it back, right, because you mentioned a word there that is going to come up again and again in this conversation, so it's probably good to make a definition of it now, which is Moodle. And for somebody who's maybe uninitiated, Moodle sounds like doodle, not necessarily sure what it means. So Pete, you work directly with Moodle every day. You might describe what it is and what it allows students to achieve, staff to achieve, etc., etc.
I think, put simply, Moodle is just a website. Like any other website, you can just go and log in, and when you log in, you'll see a list of modules that you're taking in your college course. And when you go into those modules, it can be broken up by week 1, week 2, and the content that your lecturer has uploaded for each of those weeks. So it's just a place where lecturers can store notes at its most basic. But it's got a lot more.
So when you say notes could be like the PowerPoints or PDFs,
PowerPoint presentations, Word documents,
whatever,
videos, little bits of audio, whatever the lecturer wants to put up. Pretty much any piece of any document or piece of media the lecturer can upload there. But increasingly, there's a lot more interactive types of content in there. So we've got, say, one called Turn It In, which you can upload your assignment to, and it will do a plagiarism check to see if you're after borrowing any of the content from another source, and it can tell you, a certain percentage of your assignment or your essay has been borrowed from another source without being referenced. There's interactive videos, there's so many different pieces of content that you can put up there.
But Moodle is an online learning platform. So if we talk about WordPress being a blogging platform, and it also allows people to make websites, Moodle is a platform that is specifically geared towards the education space.
Someone recently said it's the Facebook of learning, because when you log in, all of the content is there that your lecturer puts up. So your dashboard, your module is like your wall on Facebook. You can go in and access it. You can do quizzes. Those can be kind of practice exams, or they can be actually current assessment or continuous assessment type quizzes. So you get marks for them.
Laura, you want to come in there?
Yeah, it actually comes from an interesting place in that there was a guy called Martin, can never quite pronounce his surname, I think it's Dugiamis, from Australia. He was working as an administrator in kind of IT support in one of the Australian universities, and for his PhD he decided to, because of the frustrations and that he was seeing lecturers, to try and develop a basically web-based system that would allow lecturers and students to collaborate around their learning and teaching experiences. So from that he started Moodle, which is an open source system, which is now used by millions of people worldwide. Still no cost for the software, which is phenomenal. The funny thing is that Martin still hasn't finished his PhD.
Really? Could he not get a PhD in Moodle? Could he not?
I think he might have had an honorary one by now. Now, I'm not certain of it, but I think I think it's just ironic that, from his PhD, he's developed this system that is used in most countries in the world, from small schools to massive universities. And it's brilliant to kind of see that. And as a result, there's this kind of global community of users that are continually informing how it's developed, how it's changed, how it's evolved, with a view to trying to provide the best possible learning experience. Because it's web-based, the brilliant thing is that it's accessible anywhere you have an internet connection, be it on campus, off campus. And also it allows lecturers to bring a world of resources into their classroom in kind of a structured way. So when the student goes into their module area in Moodle, they'll see all the resources that the lecturer has curated, that they've picked, that they think are maybe would be really good to support the students in their learning. There might be case studies, tutorials, articles, videos, interviews with key kind of industry figures that they might want to use then in classroom discussions. So it really brings a wealth of opportunity in terms of the learning and the resources that you have in your physical classroom.
I was reading an article before we came in to record, and it's from July of 2018. It's a Forbes article about e-learning and the e-learning business kind of space, and it talks about they made a prediction a few years ago that online learning would be $107 billion industry by 2015, but it's far exceeded that. It's an absolutely massive space. They're now predicting that it's going to be $325 billion space by 2025. And this is backed up by a number of figures, and they look at like online courses alone made just for online courses made $46 billion in 2017. That was for direct payments and online courses, and those would be ones that might be on any of the kind of the closed MOOCs platforms, the massive open online course platforms, or etc. etc. I mean, it's a huge space. Interesting enough, we talk about Moodle, which is open source software and is free. There are other alternatives. Like there's Blackboard is quite a large space. I think it's more used in America than over this part of the world.
It's used a good bit in Europe and Ireland as well. They have they have a massive data centre in Amsterdam.
Right.
There's a couple of IoTs, Institutes of Technology and universities in Ireland are using it, and will be used very much in the UK. That's a proprietary system, so there's a cost involved in the actual buying the licenses for it. Again, a massive system. Like, when years ago we had a previous system older to Moodle, and we did quite a detailed evaluation before we picked Moodle. And at the end of the day, quite often they have similar features. One might be slightly better in something, but then the other platform is slightly better in something else. And for us, it kind of came down to a decision between open source or proprietary. And because we had the skills to work with the open source platform, that lent us to maybe having better integrations with our registration system here in the college, so that when a student comes in, all their details, whatever course, whatever modules they're registered on, just appear in the system.
There's another one that I see is gaining a lot of traction recently. It's Canvas. I haven't not used Canvas. I don't know what it looks like. I've never used it. Have you any experience with Canvas?
Yeah, it's a nice platform. Again, it's quite new to market. I think it actually, interestingly, came out in the American universities, where two students were, again, out of their kind of masters or doctoral work. And from that, then it gained an awful lot of investment, set up as a company, and it's kind of significant market share at the moment. It's probably a bit fresher in terms of its style and its interface, because Moodle and other systems are continually evolving. So you have a massive system that you're trying to evolve, whereas Canvas kind of came at it from a fresh start, saying, okay, how can we do this? So you mightn't have all the legacies that you have with the other systems. Again, that's in use in a couple of universities here in Ireland. So it's grown in its market share. It's a nice system.
And there have been others that have kind of come and gone as well, but I mean, it's the nature of all software. I'd like to go back to Emma for a second, because we've been talking about Moodle and we've been singing the virtues of it, okay? But I think it's very important that we get the student perspective. What do you like about Moodle, and then what do you dislike about Moodle? And please feel free to criticise, okay? We can take it.
I like Moodle for CA assignments, because...
So that's a continuous assessment.
Continuous assessment, So we can do quizzes or short kind of projects or essay kind of style stuff using Turnitin, which you have, and it's very nice and it's easy for us to use. The kind of thing that I wouldn't like about Moodle is it's very hard, like when you're not used to it, like say for first year, to find like where's the home button, where's my modules with the new update. So
this is, we would have done an update in Moodle last, as in coming into September 2018. Yeah, okay.
So if they weren't like familiar with the system, they would be slightly confused because it's up the top in the three bar tab. So if you had just another icon to say home or something, or course modules maybe, or a book or something to show them, it might be easier for them to find it and kind of work their way through it then. But otherwise, no, it's very handy for students because we can get our notes and stuff, or any video links that we need off it.
I think we'll be picking your brain for more things that you like and
no
dislike
problem.
about Moodle after the session as well.
And I'm not asking you to kind of put words in other people's mouths, but do you think your opinion will be shared by your classmates and wider community in the college? Student community.
Well, I'd like to think it would be. I think for some stuff, yes, it would be. For finding the navigation on Moodle, I think it would be shared. I don't know how others feel about CA, but I'm quite happy enough with it.
Fair play.
But no, that's
extra 5 points for Griffin.
Should that not be entertainment systems, Rob?
Well, yeah, but then we'd miss the Gryffindor reference. Right. So we're talking about the online learning. We've talked about platforms and, Moodle, Blackboard and all those other ones, but they're quite large. But that's not the only thing that we use. I mean, could you make an argument that email is part of kind of technology enhanced learning and other systems like that?
Yeah, it's basically using, like, email is an extension of Moodle. So, for example, anytime you upload your assignment into Moodle, you get an email to say the assignment has been submitted. Anytime there's a post made to a discussion forum, depending on how you've configured, this lecturer gets an email to say, Rob has submitted a post to the forum. So it's just an extension of it. Using email, like most distance learning courses when they started, you got a book in the post or a package in the post, which was all your learning materials, and then it was kind of like a correspondence course that was done through email. So arguably, I don't think it's like the only tool you'd use. I think it's just part of the tool.
No, well, email was just an example of something that is a technology that somebody might recognise from regular life that can actually be incorporated into the learning experience, but isn't necessarily built for it specifically. But maybe we could kind of move forward a little bit, because where these have really come into their own is in the totally online learning experience. Now, we've mentioned MOOCs before, these massive open online courses, and I'm quite happy to go on the record as saying I've started loads of these, and I think I've completed one, and even then that was quite a short one. I'm not great at it, but I mean I do use online learning resources a lot. Lynda.com I use quite a lot, typically in our off period, not when we're teaching. Outside of teaching, I use it recently for learning Kotlin. I've also used it for other things like music-y things, or learning. I'm trying to follow a game design course. I started it. I haven't finished it because teaching semester started, and that was that out of the way. But the edX is another platform that I have worked with before. These really, without these platforms, distance learning would be back to the way you described the correspondence course now.
It would be. There is an interesting discussion around them. So you have Coursera, you have Udacity, you have Udemy, you have a whole load of them. They have a very high kind of attrition rate. Like you mentioned, you've only completed one, but you've started loads. But the kind of discussion I've had with people sometimes is like, on a single course, you might have, I remember seeing figures there where the average student enrollment was 70 to 80,000. Okay, maybe 2,500, 3,000 people were finishing the module, but that was more than some colleges are graduating in a year across all their programs. So there's some merit in it. It's also, there's an interesting kind of discussion in terms of who's engaging with these courses. So they were, Coursera in particular, they were originally started by some lecturers in Stanford where they were kind of questioning, can we do things differently? Can we open up education and make it accessible to the masses? But part of the figures from what they've seen is that the people that are still engaging these platforms are people with prior levels of education. So it's not necessarily reaching the people that it was intended to reach.
Okay.
And there's questions then about, well, how can we evolve it so that it is actually servicing that need because they have a clear need, but also still making education more accessible to people that, like you mentioned there, Emma, about, you know, when you come into the environment, you're not really sure how to use the navigation, and you know that they shouldn't be barriers to you engaging with the learning.
But which I think is bringing up an interesting point, because online learning is, you know, we're always told it's the future, but the kind of the bricks and mortar learning is still here.
Yeah.
And you know, arguably will be here for a while. But I think that's an interesting one, because if somebody, one of the things about college, or certainly I found, and I think it's still replicated today, was it's not just about the academic learning. There's also social elements to it. There's also personal development. You know, you might discover certain things about yourself, maybe get into sport, get into other areas that you might learn about. Whereas if it's the online experience, that might necessarily happen.
Well, there's multiple kind of points of view on it. That, for example, it's
this
great.
is as an undergraduate course.
As an undergraduate
you know,
course,
somebody
like,
coming from school, starting a course.
Yeah, like as a parent, I wouldn't like, say, my kids to be sitting in a converted garage doing their degree and not having any social interaction. But as someone pointed out to me one day, you know, if you're living in a remote part of Australia and that's the only way they can go to university, but they can be very involved in the local community and in local clubs and can have that social interaction as part of that, well, that's a kind of supplement.
Yeah.
Some of the American universities have strategically actually come out and they see some of the online platforms as facilitating the later stages of undergraduate. So in third year or fourth year, that you might be doing significant elements of your course online, and then you might be coming to campus for a 1 month residential, where you're getting the whole kind of flipped classroom approach, that you've developed your skills as an independent learner. You've transitioned from kind of the second level secondary school experience into third level. You've developed your own kind of critical thinking skills, and you're able to then maybe have the discipline, you know what you're doing, you're kind of more confident that this is the career for you, and it allows you to kind of to work on a more independent learning. But also...
Could I stop you there for 1 second? Because you used the term, and I'd just like to get a definition of it. You talked about a flipped classroom.
Yeah.
Could you just describe what that is?
So a flipped classroom is where essentially... say we can all think back to secondary school, and what you do in secondary school is you go into class, you maybe work through a concept with your teacher, and you go away and you kind of do homework. The whole idea is the flipped classroom is as opposed to going into a classroom and maybe being lectured to by the lecturer, that there would be resources, there would be like inquiry-based learning kind of trails where you might be reviewing key readings, key articles, and the lecturers kind of asked you, when you're reading these articles, consider these questions. You might be designing, contributing videos, developing resources, posting into discussion forums. And then when you come into the classroom, it's all about discussion. It's very active learning experience. You're not kind of passively sitting there while your lecturer is talking through their PowerPoint or whatever. So that's the whole idea of trying to flip the classroom around so that the students are doing their homework, doing kind of their independent study outside of it, and when they come to the classroom, it's a real active learning experience.
So you kind of do your homework before the class, and then the class becomes something that's I'm going to say at a higher level is maybe reductive to say that, but it allows you to get deeper insight into a particular topic, whatever that might be.
So I'll give you an analogy in kind of the maths-based domain. So typically what happens is in maths, the lecturers go in, they have a set curriculum, module content they're trying to cover, and you know, say they're doing simultaneous equations, regardless of whether you're getting simultaneous equations or not, they got to get on with it and they got to try cover that today, and you either kind of keep up or you don't. Whereas with a flipped classroom approach, using the likes of quizzes, using analytics, the students have kind of maybe pre-developed exercises to do. So some students may be struggling with simultaneous equations, some have already gotten them, and the lecturer then kind of designs their classroom around that. So they might go into the classroom, some portion of the students that are very comfortable with things can be working ahead, and the group that was kind of struggling with the simultaneous equations, they can be taken aside, given a little tutorial and work through it. So it's rather than just working through it at the same pace, and hopefully everyone is at the same pace, because people learn at a different pace.
And Emma, would you have noticed that shift in modules as you've gone from first year to second year to third year?
Yes. There was a couple of, we'll say, maths modules I've noticed that in, where if some people were ahead of us...
Jeez, lads, you love the maths.
It's all about the numbers, Rob. If some people were ahead of us and understood the maths, they would like give us information on it so that we could help better understood it. Now, it took us a bit longer to get there, but we still got there. But I find that since I've come into second and third year, the lecturers put so much time and effort to getting everybody at the same level. Well, the teachers that I've had anyway, I can definitely feel that they're passionate about getting everyone to understand it. And it's nice that not everybody's left behind. They're putting emphasis on, if you're good at it, you can do this, but I'm going to go and help these people as well. So it's nice that we're all kind of on an equal playing field.
Yeah. So so this is where the technology can assist, because this pre-classroom work can be made available and put into a curated path. Because I suppose this is the other thing about online learning. And I use this year in my induction chat with the incoming first years, was that there's curricula or material like learning. If you want to learn to program, there are 100 million courses available online, and off you go, pick one. But as we've kind of established, the completion rates are relatively low, very low in fact, actually, for a lot of technology ones.
About 20%.
Yeah,
for the online ones.
So they're quite low, and what this kind of approach allows is to have that kind of that safety net, that interaction with other human beings, but equally engaging with the technology to assist in learning, so that you get a better experience overall. You don't just coming out having covered simultaneous equations. You come out having an actual understanding of simultaneous equations, assisted by the technology and your peers. Does that sound agreeable to you?
Yeah. No, I do agree with that, yeah.
Laura, I don't think you're convinced.
I know, Rob, it is the holy grail. I think it's where most educators would like to be. But you're trying to, I guess a lot of people are trying to struggle to do that on top of kind of heavy teaching commitments.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of, there is kind of a question at a higher level of how technology can facilitate different modes of delivery, and what that means for our work practices and our students in terms of coming to college. I think the technology it's moving in that direction and has a long way to go, so that you as a lecturer can see very easily, okay, where your students are at if you've 100 students in your class, and then you can kind of tailor your approaches based on that. That still takes a bit of time towards that, but it's going in that direction, and I think AI could have a massive influence in that space.
Okay, well now I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, because we definitely won't finish up. Pete, like, I know you keep track of stats of usage on Moodle and other platforms. I mean, what are the kind of the general... What can we generally learn from the stats that you're getting from Moodle usage?
I suppose there's a couple of different areas of stats that we're looking at. So first of all, we're looking at usage of the platform as technologists. And we're saying, like, there's 11 million page views a year on Moodle.
On WIT's Moodle?
On WIT's Moodle.
Okay, we have, I should know this. How many full-time students do we have in the institute?
Depends what way you count it, Rob. And when you count it.
Not going down that rabbit hole either.
Okay. So, I mean, I think it was 7,000?
Yeah, you're talking to 7,000 to 8,000 with plus part-time learners and the like as well, yeah.
Yes, but when you add in the part-time, there's another few as well, there as well, yeah. But so let's say, just for the sake of argument, 10,000, right?
Yeah.
And somebody will probably come down and kill me for saying that figure, for either overestimating or underestimating, okay? But let's say 10,000. So we're talking 10,000 are producing 11 million.
Yeah.
Page
now,
impressions.
as Emma has said already, that like it's not necessarily how much students use Moodle themselves, but it's down to how much the lecturer uses. So different lecturers use Moodle in different ways.
Yeah.
So not all of those lecturers will be on Moodle or using it as a core part of their teaching. Not all of the students will be on Moodle because their lecturers don't expect them to be. So, we're looking at maybe 7,000 active users on Moodle across a full academic year, which is quite impressive, and they would produce about 11 million pages. That has increased about 10% year on year. Another metric we're looking at is on the technology side is the move to mobile.
Yeah.
So in the last couple of years, we've seen nearly a 10% growth year on year on the use of mobile devices. So if you take the 11 million as 100%, nearly 40% of that is either the mobile app or using browsing the mobile website. And that's up from about 20% in 2017.
So that's where people are interacting with our Moodle via their phone or a tablet device, as opposed to a regular laptop. Just to make that distinction. Just to make the distinction, the mobile laptop is not considered mobile. Yeah,
exactly. So that's interesting to us from a technology point of view in how we design and all the rest.
Yeah.
But it's also important from a teaching point of view, in that now you have to consider how your materials look on a mobile device.
Yeah, of course.
So we're in the middle of looking at that whole process and educating the lecturer teams on that area. From the other side of the Moodle Analytics, we can see like there's a plugin in Moodle that we're looking at using, or we might look at in the future, is students at risk of dropping out.
Okay.
And that looks at metrics such as students' engagement with Moodle, the lecturers' engagement with Moodle, and their peers' engagement with Moodle. So, following a pattern like that, you could potentially, now we've a retentions office that will look at all that sort of stuff, but you could potentially, the technology is there to look at and get a quick idea of students at risk of dropping out. But, there's so many, like it's big data territory. There's so much information in there. It's trying to pick out what's useful. And we're looking at it from both of those directions. From a technology point of view, how can we create a better experience for students, but also from a kind of retention side, is a whole other side to that.
To go back to the original question though about the usage stats, we would have relatively high usage of the platform. So I mean, it's not just a case of we're talking about it and isn't it lovely? It's actually being used.
Oh yeah,
actively,
and we can see even the different activities, from quizzes to turn it in to standard assignments. We can see how often people are using those. We can see how many times lectures, not individual lectures, but collectively, how many times they've uploaded the likes of a PowerPoint or a Word document, or how many modules have been created.
Now let's go beyond. Oh, sorry, Laura.
Just to qualify, all our analytics are anonymised, so we're not looking at kind of
Emma stats.
Yeah, Emma stats. No, we're not. We're looking, like, say, globally, what type of devices people are coming off. They're totally anonymised in that way, so it's there's no merit in the kind of, for us, the Big Brother thing is.
And we're not selling your data to
Cambridge
Analytica or anything like that. Okay,
we just use it again for managing the platform and seeing, okay, where's the technology going? What do we need? Do we need to add more servers at a most basic level?
And at a simple level, so we have monitoring software, extensive monitoring software on the platform, but it's always quite interesting in that, you're asking, like, is it being used? Generally, we know if there's an issue with Moodle before we get an alert off the monitoring software, because we get a phone call saying, I'm trying, what's after happening? Or someone actually walks into the office saying, I was just across the corridor and something went wrong. And we're like, oh yeah, okay, we're on it. So it's definitely being used. Even it's interesting to see, like through the night, like the times that are being used, again, it's all anonymised, but it's facilitating access to those kind of core learning materials outside the traditional physical classroom. Students are working through the night.
Well, it's funny because I actually know this, because I suppose we have to go back to, so look, we're Waterford Institute of Technology, okay, and the Institute of Technology have a broader remit than other universities, and we do have a kind of a responsibility to people who maybe wouldn't be able to go to a university in Dublin or wherever, okay? And I know students, because they're in our classrooms, who do work, and people who work late in the night, and they might be working through the night, and they might be sitting at a desk being a security guard somewhere or whatever, and they're working away on materials.
Oh yeah, they're
3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
One of the things, we've got a pilot program running through one of the Springboard programs, the Higher Diploma in Computer Science, and that's really interesting for us. And it being a Springboard program, these are people who are in jobs but want to move into different areas.
So Springboard is a funded program. I know we did a podcast about it a while back. When you can hear all about it if you trawl through the archive, but it's a funded program specifically geared towards part-time learners who are already working in some other job,
or are unemployed. So we've got people who are on an assembly line that are listening to a live class while they're on their production line instead of, or can listen back to the podcasts.
Yeah.
And they're engaging with the content in the evenings and doing the lab work. We've got a girl, a single mother, who is able to fit this in. She would not be able to go back to education and do a programming course if it was full time. This course is perfectly geared to her, and she's provided some great feedback on that course. We've got a person who's worked in the casino.
Yeah,
and
I've heard about this person.
Has done their project on blackjack dealing. So, like, just the range of life experience that people are bringing into the course reflected in what's coming out of it. But the fact that they're able to do it is hugely important for us.
That course is fully online.
Yeah,
that course is fully online. It's an interesting one with that, because we're talking about Moodle, and Moodle is look, at this stage is I don't want to say it's a conservative piece of technology, but it's a well-worn path and it's widely used around the world. But in the fully online courses, I mean, you're co-opting technologies that weren't meant for education into the education mix with. And I'm not trying to blow your own trumpet here now, or getting you to blow your own trumpet, but they're really interesting, successful results. So you're bringing in things like Slack, which is used
team communication platform.
It's used all across the technology industry, and I see it being used outside of the technology industry. But you're also bringing in game streaming technology, which I think is fascinating. And maybe you could talk a bit about where that came from. What you do with it, and why you're using technologies that are typically used by Twitch users.
Not just Twitch users. I mean, we're looking at it from, I suppose, the quality point of view, creating a quality learning experience for the students. And we're looking at making sure that meets the expectations people have of how things look online now. So previous platforms that we've used are like 280p, like really poor quality video.
So that's a low resolution video. And that's video. Like old YouTube videos from
You're
15 years ago.
To try
kind of thing.
And see the notes on the screen.
Yeah.
And the audio from the lectures is quite muffled. And, it's not good quality that we've come to expect now. So, from other jobs I've had, you're looking at other industries and what other industries are doing to solve problems similar to the ones you're having. And being an avid gamer, looking at to see what people are doing. I mean, when you look at, I was going to say kids, but adults more so now as well. They're looking at people playing games for hours on end, and the technologies that they're using, why can't we use them as well?
They're very high production values. I mean, I've seen. I'd like to tell you that I watch these things. I don't spend an awful lot of time doing it, but I have seen them, and they are like the production quality is amazing compared to a couple of years ago
for a relatively low cost.
Yeah.
Which was one of the other considerations we had.
So the thing is, what's the name of the system that you're using?
So we use a system called OBS, which is Open Broadcast System or Open Broadcast Studio, and basically that encodes a video. It creates a video stream that we send to YouTube, and students can watch that class live on YouTube. But it also allows us to, I mean, we've got webcams, good quality webcams. It's about €120 for a Logitech webcam. We've got a good USB microphone. We use green screens, and OBS does green screening out of the box, which is great. That sort of software 5 years ago or 10 years ago would have been incredibly expensive, and we wouldn't have been able to put a couple of rooms or even give the lecturers this technology to bring home and do it. We've also simple things like lighting, and lighting is very expensive. You can get a Keynote Flow that cost $5 or $8 grand to light a video session. We also had a look at solutions that are around €800 or €900, but you can't send everyone home with a kit like that. So we looked at beauty blogging. And the lighting solution we got is a big circular mirror. Halo light. That beauty bloggers use. They've got a little iPhone attachment that you can put on your phone and put your phone on and do your makeup on. So we're taking our cues from a lot of different places to create a technology solution that works for delivering education, and that's broadcast.
So are you saying, just wanted to clarify something, so you're saying if somebody takes an online course with WIT, they'll have the best looking lecturers?
Okay,
no, don't worry, I won't make that.
I won't your answer to that,
Pete. No, but actually the real question is, right, so what we're saying is that they all have lovely bottoms, as they say. That's Father Ted quote before anyone jumps down my throat. what we're talking about there is that sometimes the online learning or the e-learning or the technology that's geared towards learning is not as up to date as the technology that's geared towards other particular areas such as gaming or whatever. And what you've been able to do very interestingly is kind of bring the gaming technology into the learning sphere and equally communications technology or whatever that might be to produce an experience that somebody would recognize in 2019 more so than say Adobe Connect.
Yeah, and I don't want to pick on Adobe
No,
Connect.
No, it's a huge platform, and I think Adobe are okay. I think they're big boys.
And what, just kind of to step back from that a little bit and to qualify it a little bit, we're very much the toolbox, and we're not really focused on the tools. But to say that lectures are trying to achieve a particular thing, and each lecture is different in how they're trying to approach that. So for every job that they have, we might have a different technology, and Adobe Connect is a very good one for a lot of different lecturers who just want to press a button and go online and have a classroom there.
Yeah.
Some lectures, and we've been lucky with the lectures on the pilot program on the HDIP and computer science, that they want to push the boat out. They want to increase the production value. They want to push the technology, but they also have very specific concerns around the interaction with the classroom. So in Adobe Connect, for example, your chat conversation with your students is in that Adobe Connect session and doesn't live on anywhere afterwards. So you might also have a forum discussion in Moodle and some emails going on as well for support. So we've brought in Slack that creates a one-stop shop for all communications. So while you're taking your online class, you're watching a video on YouTube, you're typing away and having answering questions and interacting with your students and the lecturer inside in Slack.
Yeah. So Slack it's almost like if anyone hasn't used it, it's like an email client, an instant messaging client, a notice board. It's like a Facebook feed, but private Facebook feed almost, that you can put stuff up and comment and put links in. And
you create different channels. So you might have one channel for programming and one channel for web development, so that you're able to direct that discussion.
Have you used Slack, Emma, at all? I'm just wondering, have you used it?
I've used it for when I joined Global Games Jam.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
When we were creating it, we used Slack. It's very good. I like it a lot. It's very easy to get around and user friendly.
Have you used it in any of your modules as an undergraduate yet?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay.
What me and my friends did was we made a Discord channel.
For
ourselves. So if we were stuck on something, we would have a voice chat.
Yes.
So we could actually talk through it, and we could also use TeamViewer to share our screens if we were having an issue with programming or maths or something like that. So that's
interesting. You're not the only student. I've seen a couple of students using Discord.
Yeah, it's very good.
In class. I don't know if they're talking about what I'm supposed to be talking about, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. So
we've looked at Discord as well, but again, you're saying you need bolt-on technologies like TeamViewer.
Yes. Yep.
But if we use Slack,
that's built in.
It's built in, so you can video call multiple students at the same time. You can have a one-to-one video call with a student. You can remote desktop, so the lecturer can actually remote desktop onto the student's computer, take control of their screen, and fix a problem that they might be having. Which is, as a computing lecturer, I'm sure you've had that a few times in a face-to-face classroom where you kind of have to go, let me have a look and see what you did there. So being able to do that remotely. Some of our students they're spread out all over the island of Ireland, so being able to do that, and they don't have to come down to WIT for that sort of help. It's really interesting.
So if I can try to summarise this conversation, which we haven't really come to any conclusions, I don't think, because it's a moving target, but what we're trying to do is maybe set out the space as it is today in February of 2019. So what we're talking about is how technology can assist and enhance the learning experience, maybe open up new opportunities that somebody can engage in that they wouldn't necessarily be able to do based on a physical presence. So would that be fair? And like what your job to do, say Laura and Pete and your team, your job is to provide the tools and the technologies and the support that allow Emma to learn effectively and allow the likes of me to help Emma learn effectively. Is that fair?
I'd say it's a little more than that, Rob.
Oh, it is, yeah, but I'm trying to summarise it in like 60 seconds.
You mentioned there from the learner perspective, from the teacher perspective, the lecturer perspective, there's potentially different technologies allowing them maybe to facilitate different modes of teaching.
Yeah.
So, for example, anonymised peer assessment.
Yeah.
We have a lecturer who works in, they work in the Department of Nursing. Part of their modules area around personal and professional safety, so that when nurses go out into practice, they have to be able to give and receive peer feedback. So they have anonymised peer assessment. There's 120, 140 students in a class. Trying to manage an anonymised peer assessment process without technology is a massive challenge. Whereas within Moodle, they just set up an assignment, they set up as a peer assessment, set up the size of the groups, they can define the criteria the students have to give feedback on, and off they go.
That's really interesting because because we can often get lost in our own little silos. Like if I'm talking about computing and programming, or somebody else could talk about, humanities or business or engineering. But here we're talking about something that's very specific towards nursing that I would have no clue about.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important that those unique characteristics of a particular discipline are able to be catered to, and there isn't a one-size-fits-all mentality.
Yeah, but there's other, like say in humanities and social care and in engineering, there's other areas where they've come to us saying like, I want to do peer assessment and I need it to be anonymised. They've different industries, different professions, but the same general principles underpinning it. The other thing you mentioned there about kind of our role in the Centre for Technology Enhanced Learning in terms of providing the tools and technologies, I'd say it's more than that. Like, in order to provide the right tools and technologies, we have to be continually questioning, like, where is this going? What, like Pete has just mentioned there, like a range of technologies we're continually looking at, questioning, should we bring these in? We're working with lecturers in discussions around their teaching. What are they trying to do? What technologies could potentially enable that? So that lends us to what's the right one.
Yeah, that's a nice way to nearly end it, because I have to get my cooking analogy in, right? Because every episode has a cooking analogy, because I like to bring things back. And it is getting close to lunchtime as we're recording this, so I'm starting to feel hungry. So, okay, so we often use the cooking analogy, and we have the restaurant, okay? And the restaurant, and if we can imagine the restaurant in this case, Laura, Pete and I are working in the restaurant, and we're serving up food to Emma, who is the student, who is our customer. But maybe the online experience is a takeaway, where you can get something and take it home with you. And it can even be a high-end takeaway now. It doesn't have to be manky or anything like that. Okay, it can be a high-end takeaway. But what we really want is to have a mixture of the two, where we can have the restaurant where you can come and you can sit and have your meal in person, but equally you can get some high-quality food that you can take away and consume at home. Is that, Laura, you're looking at me with because your eyes are squinting and you go, what is this fool talking about?
No, I wouldn't say what's fool. I would say to compare online learning to a takeaway, which is not quite where you're going.
No, a high-end takeaway. Okay.
Even a high-end is a disservice. I think it's just
you don't eat the takeaways that I do.
I eat too many takeaways, Rob. Maybe I need to start going to where you're going.
Yeah. No, but go on. Explore the thought.
It's just facilitating learning in different places and in different spaces that can be as high quality, as transformative in terms of your own personal development as a person and in your profession, not to the confines of a physical restaurant. Yeah. So it's maybe taking some of what you associate with your restaurant, with your on-campus experience, and bringing that into different spaces and places. You know, that you so you don't have it where the restaurant experience is restricted to those that can afford to go to or live in the proximity of their restaurant. That you can kind of bring it and you transform. The thing about the restaurant is you may only meet people that can also get to the same restaurant. Yeah. But if you think of like where technology is facilitating kind of globalized access to education, you can be in a classroom and the other person that's engaging with you online is like the leading expert from wherever in the world that's also doing the same course, just because they're doing their own, they want to upskill in their area too, that you wouldn't have necessarily got if you were just staying in the physical, you know, on the corner restaurant.
So can I make
go on, you go for it.
I'll try the analogy again. So.
Right, so go on.
So for me, it's like getting a Deliveroo from a really high quality restaurant. You're able to get whatever food you want to your door. You don't even have to leave your house. But you're also sitting down and enjoying that food with your peers who also enjoy that food in a virtual environment. So you can chat to them, you can have a text conversation with them. So it's like if you take the second screen, you get your Deliveroo and you're sitting down watching your favourite TV show and having a second screen experience on that on Twitter or on WhatsApp with your friends.
And maybe somebody like Noam Chomsky actually delivers the food to you.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a nice place to end it on, and it is definitely it's a conversation that will continue because I don't think there's an end point. It's just going to constantly develop,
it's constant evolution.
reinvent itself, and with every new bit of technology. I mean, for example, I couldn't help but admire you have the watch, and I'm sure wearable technology is going to be incorporated into the learning experience at some stage in the near future. I don't know what it'll be, but there's so many avenues for exploration. It's everything. Right, you've been listening to The Machine. We're available online on pretty much every platform that I can think of anyway. We have Twitter account machine_podcast. If you want to send us a tweet or abuse, please feel free. I'd like to thank Laura, I'd like to thank Pete, and I'd like to thank Emma for coming and having a chat, and we might revisit this space at some stage in the future.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks,
Thanks very
Rob.
much, Rob.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.